Welcome to How to Set Up Your Grids in FIGMA. I am Saray. By now, you're introduced to FIGMA and you understand that it's a robust design tool that many illustrators, designers, engineers, UXers, and now you use. Before we begin, let's talk about what grid layouts are and why they are useful. Grids help with many things. A couple examples are objects in a frame, visual structure, keeping it logical and organized, consistency across many devices, reducing decision-making, and support diverse techniques like galleries and icons and so much more. Grids are an essential tool for graphics. Grids help the designer know exactly where to place elements so that there is no ambiguity when it comes time to start to code those elements into a functional working product. Grids can be applied on any frame, and a note, components can also have their own grids within them.
Okay, here we have the entire interface of the page of the product. So for us to go ahead and start using our grid, what we want to do is want to make sure that we select the frame. This entire page is the frame. So you go to your left panel and you'll see this hashtag symbol up top that signifies that it's the frame. Make sure the entire frame is selected. You'll know your frame is selected when you see this blue outline around your entire page. To go ahead and start your layout, you want to click on the left panel. You'll see Layout Grid, and you click the plus sign, and then a grid will appear. There are many different ways to organize a grid, and I will show you some ways. Now would be a great time to talk about grid anatomy. We have columns, gutters, and margins. Your columns are your building blocks. Your gutters are the negative spaces between the columns, and your margins are the negative spaces outside of the columns. So here in your sample grid, you'll go over to the far right icon. It's going to be the layout grid settings. You'll want to click on that. And at the very top, there's a drop down. It says grid, columns, and rows. So you can go ahead and click into columns. If you prefer to design in columns, you can do so. Even further, if you prefer to design in rows, you can do that as well. Because grids are all about organizational structural components, you can have multiple grids active on each page. Go back over to your layout grid. You can add another. It can be in the exact same layout, or you can choose something new. I have some columns selected. I will go ahead and select some rows. You can make them as wide as you want or as thin as you want. There are so many different ways to organize your grid here. When you change the grid pattern, you'll see that it starts to give you more of a structure. Your elements will line up against it, your words will line up against it, and it will create that blueprint that your product and your design so surely needs for you to continue forward. Here in FIGMA, there are 3 types of layout grids available: a uniform square grid, columns, and rows. Uniform grids let you define both the size and the color. Square grids are great for situations that require precision, like designing symbols or iconography. With columns and row grids, you can divide the width or height, or define the width or height of the grid, as well as your gutter and margins. These are ideal for designing responsive interfaces for web and mobile. There are 2 types of grids, fixed and stretchy. Stretchy allows the grid to stay in the same formation no matter how you manipulate the screen. Fixed is like it sounds. You can determine both the width or the height of the rows, as well as the number of columns of rows. If you remember earlier, I mentioned that you can add a grid to a component. A way to make the component is to go ahead and right-click, create component. It'll outline in purple instead of blue. And then you go right back over to the left panel and you'll see your layer grid. You click it and you can go ahead and have your grid inside your component. This is a great way to orient your icons and your text in accordance to the area. One of the great things about grids is that you can create unique grid styles. Go to this icon, the 4 dots, click it, hit the plus, name it something memorable, card grid, create the style, and then it will always be there ready for you to use. Toggle it on and off by opening and shutting this eye, and your card grid style is ready to go.
There you have it. Thanks for watching this video on how to create grids in Figma. Go forth and conquer, and I know you will. See you next time.